the game was different, right? The rules was different. The ball
Oh,
was different.
the Euro style is different in America.
The Euro style was a lot different than America.
That's the first time y'all seen that Euro step too, huh?
Absolutely.
Hi, this is Catherine Anderson with the Achieve a Dream Foundation, where we turn dreams into reality. And we just want to thank you for joining us on the EuroStepping show. We hope you enjoy it.
Today on the EuroStepping, I am extremely happy and excited to have Achieve a Dream Foundation. We have Dr. McGregor, we've got Dr. Marshall, and soon to be Dr. Anderson pending on the show. So I'm going to let the doctors introduce themselves, tell us where they're from, and what they are currently doing with the foundation. Dr. McGregor, would you like to start off for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Dr. Kristen Mcgregor, originally from Jamaica, born and raised. Migrated to the States after high school. I won't put a year on that, but I migrated to, I migrated to the States after high school, where I attended Bronx Community College. I didn't get a scholarship coming to Bronx Community College. I just went. And during my time at Bronx Community College, I ended up getting a full athletic scholarship to Hampton University, where I competed in the discus, the shot put, the hammer throw, you know, all the throwing stuff. That was me. And then I worked on my, what degree did I get? Marketing. My bachelor's was in marketing. I have so many, right? My bachelor's was in marketing, and then graduated in 2011. And then I went back in 2012 to serve as a director of operations and the assistant track and field coach for both the men and women's track and field programs. During that time, I ended up working on my master's in sports administration. And that's when I was like, man, there is more that I want to do. And in order for me to do that, I have to get a PhD. And that's kind of how that journey started. And so I ended up getting a full scholarship to the University of Michigan to work on my PhD in sport management. And this last May 2020, I graduated. And now I am figuring out, I'm trying to figure out life.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because if somebody had told me that I would graduate in the middle of a pandemic, I would be like, you are absolutely crazy, right? But nevertheless, I'm making it work. So right now, I serve as an academic mentor with Michigan Athletics. And then also I serve as the Chief Development Officer with the Achieve a Dream Foundation. And pretty much in my role, what I do is I just build relationship with different student athletes, coaches, parents, and help with the development and the programs that we have here at the foundation. And I'm excited about that work. I'm excited about doing everything, working with student athletes, because that's something that I'm truly passionate about. And so that's really me in a nutshell.
Nice. I like it. Next to me, I have soon to be Dr. Anderson.
I like that.
I got you.
All right. So, as you know, my name is Catherine Anderson. I go by Kat with everyone. I'm also born and raised in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica. Went to high school with Crystal. We also
don't need to give us a year either.
No year. We graduated technically the same year. We also competed in the same events. I did the shot put, discus, javelin with her, where I was amazed that I excelled enough to receive academic and athletic scholarship to the prestigious North Carolina A&T State University. In Greensboro, North Carolina. So I stayed there for 4 years, and after that, I graduated, moved to the Washington, D.C. area, where I went to Marymount University to pursue my MBA. And then I've pretty much just been in the accounting industry. That's what I studied at North Carolina A&T. So I've been in accounting since forever. I would say it's my passion. I enjoy numbers.
Okay.
Numbers, that's me. So as a result, I serve as the CFO for ABF and treasurer. So I deal with everything finance, budgeting, you name it. I also will serve as the person that pretty much helps with giving more knowledge or sharing the importance of financial literacy as well. And along with Crystal, we will mentor individuals, student athletes, etc. So I'm excited about this journey. As you can see, we're all student athletes. We know what it's like. We have been there. And I think this is the biggest thing that drives us, drive our passion. And that's it for me.
I like it. And last but definitely not least, Dr. Marshall, tell us about yourself.
All right, of course. All right, my name is Dr. Claudia Marshall, as Katrin and Crystal shared. Born and raised in Jamaica, went to the Convent of Mercy Academy, Alpha. I'm actually one of all three of the other co-founders went to the same high school. So this is like a running joke among us. So I'm the only one that did it.
You don't know how. She got lucky. Amongst us.
Yes. So after graduating from Alpha, I received a full track and field scholarship to Hampton University, where I competed in everything, literally. It's not even a joke. I did the heptathlon, the pentathlon, the high jump, the 4 hurdles, the 4x4, literally everything. After I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology, and then I went on to receive my master's in clinical mental health counseling. After graduating with my master's, then I went on to Auburn University to get my PhD in counselor education and supervision. So I currently serve as a counselor educator and a therapist. However, my role with the Achieve a Dream Foundation, I think about it, it's kind of threefold, but I guess it all comes together. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer, the president in my day-to-day role, and also the Director of Counseling. So mental health is my passion, and one of the major initiatives that we have going on right now is regarding mental health and providing different tools and resources for our student athletes. So that's one of the things that I really love about the Achieve a Dream Foundation, is that we take this holistic approach to mentoring and developing student athletes. Because when you think about the mental health piece, the mentoring piece, the financial literacy piece, we really thought about all the different things we didn't have and we tried to kind of put it all together and provide that for other student athletes. So I'm really excited to be a part of this team and want to share that with you all.
Nice. And that kind of, I like the way how you ended that off. And it's great that you guys could get together as a collective and kind of pinpoint, hey, what was missing or what needed support from our journey, and kind of put that all together. So, you should corner everything. So yeah, I think that's great. I think the first big question is, how and why. I know we just spoke about like the bits are missing, but you all went to different colleges and all the rest, different parts of the United States. So what then said, hey, let's get together and form this foundation?
Yeah, that's a good
Christy or Claudia would be better at answering that,
right?
Doing it. Whichever one of you want to answer that, I'm fine.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting that he asked that, because when you think of it, it's something that we've all really been doing in our own, I guess, individual perspectives, because Crystal and I went to Hampton together. And while at Hampton, we have this thing, it wasn't official yet, but we had the Camp 21, right? Where we used to look after, I guess, the generations of Jamaicans that kind of came after us. And then Katrin was always passionate about helping student athletes and bringing that financial literacy piece together. And I remember we were just talking about this, where she came and visited me for my birthday in 2020. And we were just on our way to the airport when she was going home. And we were just talking about the different things that we want to do and seeing that overlap in what we were passionate about doing and what Crystal was already doing, what Dakota was passionate about doing. And she was like, well, I mean, obviously we are all in each other's lives for a reason. So why don't we bring all of that together and make it this one central thing? And even though it's something that we've always talked about wanting to work together as a friend group, I think it just came together like organically, honestly, in the different conversations that we had. And we really just had to put pen to paper and make it happen.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So on that, how long, I know you guys have just officially launched, you know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, but when did it start, you know, kind of like in, you know, before it was as it is now, when did it kind of start?
I mean, in essence, we all started, the Achieve a Dream Foundation really started January.
Okay.
I mean, there are like bits and pieces of information that we've used from something Claudia was trying to start or something Chrissy started.
Okay.
But the idea of the Achieve a Dream Foundation as a whole came about January, and we just started like putting our ideas together, sending each other messages, and then over the course of the year we were like, yeah, let's get serious about this. So June is when we actually became effective in the books of Maryland.
Okay.
That hey, this is for real, this is an organization, you know, so we got incorporated in June, but for the entire year of 2020 was really where we spend the most of our time putting all of our ideas together. Would you ladies agree, or?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wow. So, you guys have just been going over a year, so happy belated anniversary, I guess.
Well, thank you.
First year down in the books. So, I guess, how would you detail what you guys do in terms of services and, you know, how you guys are, you know, operating on a day-to-day?
So we have, when you talk about services or programs, like we like to frame it, it's really, we look at the biggest piece of what we do is really to support high school student athletes who have that dream of coming to the United States, right? I think that's the piece that's so important to each and every one of us, because we went through that process and we have an understanding of what, you know, it felt like to like not being uncertain about everything and coming to a different culture and country and trying to understand how to function here, like how to be away from my mom, right? It's one thing to be a couple minutes or a couple states away, but it's a whole other thing to be 3,000 plus miles away from your family, right? And so one thing that we do is we work with high school student athletes, with one, helping them to understand the system as it pertains to what does it take to get a scholarship to come to the United States, like all the steps that they have to go through. And now we're in this pandemic, it's a little bit more challenging. And so kind of, you know, encouraging them, motivating them, and at the same time trying to help them to find or to have access to different coaches to communicate with. The second piece is that we also offer mentorship to student athletes, whether they're in high school or they're in college, that, you know, they just want somebody to talk to. You know, how I look at mentorship or mentors is that a mentor literally helps you to move faster in life, because they have all these knowledge and information to kind of, you know, guide you along that path, right? So something that might have taken us 10, 20 years, it might take you a couple weeks because you have somebody who literally went through that process. And so what we do is we provide mentorship to these student athletes in whatever areas, whatever they're dealing with, we provide that mentorship to assist them. And then the third piece is to provide that career advising component. I think oftentimes student athletes, they're one, not aware of everything and all the qualities and the transferable skills that they do have. And what you find is they tend to put themselves in this little box, right? And so we're here to get them out of that box and to show them and say, hey, listen, you have all these skills and we're going to show you how to apply them, right? And so we work with them for the career advising piece. That's typically for students who are in their junior through postgraduate, to kind of help them to understand, like, what is it I want to do, to start thinking about what is life after sport, right? If I'm not going to become a professional athlete, what am I going to do next? Because the reality is, not every student athlete will make it to the league, right? Don't believe me? Visit the NCAA website. It has the stats, 2%. Just wanted to know, I got the facts, right? Only 2% of student athletes make it to the league. And so for the rest, what are you going to do? You have to find a job, right? You have to find something that you're passionate about. And so that's where we come in to try to help student athletes to understand that process.
Nice. Okay. Anyone else putting a little something on top?
No, she covered everything.
Okay. It was good. So as I said, this platform is predominantly based for basketball players and all the rest of it, but I think in totality it's about international students that want to come over to the States and participate in sport. So with the Achieve a Dream Foundation, is it only track athletes you work with? Is it, who does it, what's the demographic of the platform?
It's all sports, honestly. I know we are all track just because we did track, but I'm sure Crystal and Dakota, even though she's in here, they both played basketball in addition to track.
Okay.
Crystal was the captain of the basketball team at the time when we were in high school. So I'm sure they're also as passionate. But coming from where we're from, it's everything, honestly. It's basketball, it's gymnastics, it's swimming. It's whatever you are good at, wherever your passion is. So all sports included.
Okay.
No sports left behind.
Nice. Okay. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna find like somebody with like a real niche sport and hit you guys up.
You know what? I mentioned this to someone the other day. Actually, one of our members of Connect to You, he is a soccer player. But we mentioned to him, if you have, we're not sure about cricket because Jamaica about cricket, but we were like, hey, there is baseball now. It's kind of close, so you never know. You might just be able.
I can't look. I'm gonna have to say on the record. I'm gonna have to say on the record that cricket and baseball are not similar. My dad had a club, and my brother played like England juniors, and I can't. I can't even, like, as a joke, I can't even go with it because I'd have my head on a stick. So, no, but yeah, it's definitely interesting to know the range of sports that they do have over here, and to know that there's scholarships. Sometimes, like I guess football, like NFL, or not NFL, or American football and basketball, there's a lot of scholarships that go out. And there's fewer when it comes to swimming and all the rest of it, but yeah, there's it doesn't have to be a big sport. You can be really good at something really small, such as I don't know, baseball, lacrosse, all those sports. They find stuff to do with. So it's real good. What's the first thing you would advise a student? A high school kid comes to the foundation, says, hey, look, I'm really interested in pursuing a college career in this sport. How best do I get to the States?
Yeah, so we definitely take a holistic and individualized approach to how we advise our student athletes. We take into consideration what their performance is, right? what their academic, not only their athletic performance, but what their academic performance is. So a big part of it is actually having their portfolio where they can present information to us of, okay, this is how I am doing in basketball. I have a what is it called, a video or a recording of me playing. These are my grades, right? This is the basis or the foundation of what they have. And then what we do is kind of come with the information that we have regarding what NCAA and different coaches require from this perspective, and then say, okay, now that you have a tape or your statistics and your GPA or your transcript, this is what we need. This is the additional resource or information that we need you to collect for us so that they can present it to us. And then we start the advising from that perspective. So there's no general template. While there's general things that they need, we do it based on where they are, because we don't want to give false hope or information to these student athletes. So we want to be realistic based on their individual performance and statistics. And you ladies can add.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, something that we pride ourselves in is making sure that parents are involved in this process, because I think that's so important. And so, like, you know, Dr. Marshall talked about earlier, where she stated that, you know, we meet with them and we have this conversation. Like, we have these one-on-one meetings with student athletes, and we really get an understanding of, you know, what is it that they want to do? What is it that their parent would like them to do? And then we try to kind of almost come like in the middle, right? So everybody could at least have an agreement of what's what. And so we do that. And then from there, like, you know, like everything that Claudia said, we go ahead and we apply, and we do, and we let them know, hey, this is information that you need to do. This is how you need to send it. So it's really different steps, right? Because it's so much that has to take place. And now that we're in the pandemic, it's a little bit more complicated because, one, they're not able to compete. You know, so coaches are probably not out recruiting and stuff like that. So it's almost like now, how I phrase it or how I tell them is almost that you have to market yourself now to these coaches. And so we help them along those paths with doing that.
Okay, that's awesome. I know dealing with, you know, again, predominantly basketball players, but I know sometimes parents of talented athletes and athletes that are talented whatever the level they are, they believe that their sport alone will take them to places. So, you know, you might get a young man who is, for me, 6'10", 6'11", great at shooting and, you know, pretty athletic, but has no interest in the academic part. You know, you tell him about school and he looks at you like you are cursing him out and telling him some really nasty words. What would your message be to that individual or them and their parents?
If you're not going to the league, you need to focus on your grades.
Thanks.
I'm just saying, like, if you're not about to just be like LeBron James and go straight to the league, you have to focus on your grades, because at the end of the day, like, no matter how talented you are, if you plan to go to college to play for college, you have to have grades. Like NCAA have all these requirements. Like, you can't have a 1.0 and think, oh, I'm gonna go and play. No, you won't be eligible, my friend. You won't even qualify to make it to a Division I to get a scholarship. Yeah. So it's so important to take your grades seriously. And, you know, oftentimes I tell students this, or not even student athletes, but just students in general, if you plan to go to college, once you hit 9th grade, you have to start getting them grades together, because that's what these colleges start looking at. When they pull that transcript and they see the grades that you had from 9, 10, 11, 12 grade, that's how they decide if you're gonna get in or you're not gonna get accepted. And so it's something that oftentimes, you know, it's sad to know that some people actually think that way, that I could just not do well in school and still get a scholarship, but it doesn't work like that, because the word is student athlete. It's not athlete, it's just student athlete.
Yeah, and something are you done, Chrissy? Sorry. Yeah, something else I want to add to that too, with Chrissy saying that is, I think it's because there were a lot of student athletes in the past that's been lucky enough to, boom, LeBron, just go to college first year or whatever, or whoever it may be, just go to college first year, and right out back, you just go to the conference, or you go to the league, or you go to the big one, right? And it doesn't mean that's going to be the same for you. Another thing is, I'm not sure where the school is that they might attend, but I know for me, getting your grades was a big plus. Like if you didn't have a certain GPA, you couldn't go to as simple as a track meet, let alone a conference. You know what I'm saying? So for some schools, they might stress it, like their coaches might stress it more to say, hey, in order for you to go to this track meet, you have to have a 3.0 this semester. You don't have a choice. That was it for me. So I had no choice but to maintain my grades. And I think that's what we are trying to enforce as mentors for these student athletes. You know, when they come up, especially from a different country, we are going to reinforce that, like, you have to maintain your grades, not just because you're excellent and you're the best runner, you're the best center, or whatever position, wide receiver, whatever you play, you still have to have your grades to back you up, because you never know. You could get injured tomorrow, and then what?
Yeah.
It's
You know,
over.
so we will stress that.
It's funny that you say that, because, you know, as you were talking, and forgive me for going, I'm gonna just switch to a little popular quick. But you think about, I don't know if anyone watches Power, right? And in Power, there's a kid, he's a basketball player. He's a star basketball player.
Yeah.
And he can't play because he's not eligible.
Nope.
Right?
Yes.
Because this is not his talents. Like, yeah, he's the best. Zeke is the best player on the team, but he doesn't have any grades. And institutions, they have to meet different requirements.
Yeah.
Based on the NCAA rules. And so if you don't have a 2.0, or you don't have you don't have enough credits, there's nothing that can be done. You're gonna be placed on probation.
On the bench.
Yeah.
If you're on probation, you cannot compete. And what people don't realize is, when you come to college, this is a business. If you're not eligible to, why am I paying again for you to come here if you're not eligible to play? And if that's because of your grades and you're not making that effort to improve your grades, then I'm gonna have to take that money. So it's really like, you have to look at it from that perspective. Yeah. Like, if you want to do this, it goes hand in hand. It's not just, oh, I'm a star athlete. You have to be an athlete and a student as well.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic really highlights that now too, because you have so many talented athletes that don't have a scholarship at this point because they don't have the grade, right? One, because if they were able to give athletic scholarships, they might have been able to like slide through the crack and be like a Zeke situation, but they can't get that athletic scholarship. And then because you don't have the grade, then you don't even have a chance of getting an academic scholarship, which could have gotten you in the same position as that athletic scholarship would have, which is to play, right? So like Crystal was saying, it really goes hand in hand. So it's a big part of, I guess, us speaking the language that they understand, which is they want to play, right? And if you want to play, then this is also a part of what you need to do to ensure that you can play, which is maintain your grades. So yeah, definitely goes both ways from the high school and college level, because you're not going to get into college if you don't have the grades, and you're not going to be able to play if you're in college if you don't have the grades. So either way, you're not playing.
Gotta figure it out.
What else do they need? You know, talent, obviously, grades, and what else?
I think it's also about branding themselves. Okay. You know, a lot of athletes, obviously, they're on social media, student athletes. Some can tend to share things that they don't really need to share. So we want to stress to them, hey, you know, there's certain things that you want to make public or not make public. So branding is very important. What you want to show, you know, professionals, what do you want to show your teachers? What do you want to show coaches? What do you want to show us? Because we're advocating for you. We are the liaison for you. So put yourself out there in a way that's presentable, just like when you're going on an interview, and let people be, you know, impressed with what they see. So branding is very important as well.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And I think just like other skills, like, you know, being coachable, being respectful, you know, being on time. Like if we say, hey, we have a meeting at this time, like you need to be on time, right? Because then even like, for example, like if we're setting up a meeting for you to meet with a coach and you come in 15, 20 minutes late, it doesn't look good, right? Right, that doesn't look good. So being on time, and being prepared. I can't stress that enough about being prepared and having everything together, because even, you know, just not only as an athlete, but as a student and everything that you have to do. I think that's something that's a skill that I believe student athletes should definitely start working on now, time management, because when you come to college, it's no bed of roses, okay? So definitely stressing that.
Yeah, and I think just to add to those two, that communication skill, whether it's written or oral communication, because a big part of it, and I like how Chrissy mentioned earlier that at getting a scholarship to a college, it's a business. So there's this level of advocacy that you're going to have to do for yourself. So I think being able to communicate in that sense, to be able to advocate for yourself, one, and to be able to communicate. So when you're meeting with us, having that clear understanding of what your goals are, right? And being able to communicate that verbally or in a written format, being able to communicate with the coaches once you get in contact with them, and you might not have that middle person, which might be us or your parents there anymore, right? You need to be able to speak to the coaches to let them know what you bring to the table and so on. So in addition to those professional skills that they were mentioning, I definitely think being able to communicate effectively in a written or oral format is important as well.
Nice. Yeah, there's so much more to playing collegiate sport than just having a talent and grades. I feel like the culture behind, especially being an international student, the culture is so vast and being different from what you're used to, and it definitely is different from state to state. So what I want to get into a little bit is about, you know, a brief overview on how you guys individually dealt with when you came over to the States. What did you go through in terms of, you know, your experience coming from Jamaica? You know, the weather's nice, the food's good, and then boom, you're now in the States. So, Kat, would you like to go first and talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, first when I came to North Carolina, it was a big culture shock because even though the accent was new for me, so we call everyone that's from the States Yankees, right?
Yeah.
But everyone is not from New York. So I learned that when I went to North Carolina. Oh, this accent don't sound right. So as a result, you kind of pick up on the accent first. You're like, yeah, this is something I have to learn because they have to learn my accent too. Yeah. So a big thing for me was culture shock, the way how people would just say hi to each other. Good morning. Everyone is so nice. We are not like that back home. Like if someone says morning to you back home, they think you want something or you about to rip them off or something, right? So that was a big culture shock for me too. And I mean, just being a student athlete, I learned a lot. Just teamwork in general was different because we had to follow a roster. We had to follow a schedule. It was more intense in essence. Your coach will make sure, okay, I had teammates. We had to check out for each other, make sure we're all leaving at the same time. Make sure we're on the bus at the same time, because if one person gets left, then, you know, it's drama. It's an issue. So just constantly relying on each other and constantly checking in, basically making sure your other teammates are there. Back home, I didn't do that. I got to the track meet whenever I wanted to get to the track meet, as long as I was there before I competed. You couldn't do that in college. You couldn't do that at A&C. You had to be there when the bus was leaving. So for me, that was a plus. And then just being able to, I mean, I would say I was fair with handling. I had good time management with school and my academics, but my coach stressed it a lot. You just had to make sure your grades was up to par with your talent as well. Those were some of the bigger things I saw while I was at A&T.
Okay. Dr. Marshall, what about you?
Yeah, I'm listening to Kat, and it's so interesting because my experience is like the opposite of that, right?
Okay.
So, and I'm listening like, wow, that's so interesting because it was definitely a culture shock, right? Because where I'm from, like a lot of people don't really get that opportunity to go to different places in the country of Jamaica, much less to go abroad for school, right? So it was a culture shock in the essence of one, like not even knowing something as simple as what to major in, right? That was a big, because I just picked a major that my brother said, this is what people get paid in, so you just need to major in that, right? So I went up to my junior year as a chemical engineer major. And that's not even something that I was going to do. Yes, like that was my major until my junior year. And then I had to take an abnormal psych class, and then the rest was history. But it's crazy because in my whole household, like my grandmother, like if you don't say good morning, it's a problem in the house, right? So I found myself like, hello, good morning, every time I saw someone, and they would look at me crazy. And they're like, first of all, why are you saying hello and good morning in the same sentence? Are you telling me hi and bye? So, and then the language. So one of the biggest thing that really stuck out to me, right, was English. My freshman year, I took an English class and we had to write a paper. And I grew up my whole life spelling with British English. So
the
I
correct English, I might add.
I was talking about color. And that's the only word. That's the only word I remember. Because she like literally called me out in the class like, who spells color with a U? You're in college and you're spelling color with a U. And I'm like, that's how you spell color.
Yeah.
That's how you spell color.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me throughout my whole experience. Like really having even something as simple as having to learn to write in American English, like spelling those words in American English, understanding that some places are cold. I didn't know that. I didn't come here with a coat. I came here with my little short sleeve stuff and my shorts and all of that. Like I didn't have a coat. You know, that's something that I had to get. So there's so many different pieces that just, and I'd say I had to unlearn some things as well. I think coming here really exposed me to a lot of things that we see as unacceptable in the Jamaican culture and we don't tolerate certain things, but having that experience and being in a university kind of helped me to transform some of my views and unlearn some of the toxic pieces of our culture as well. So I'd say it was an adjustment in a good way and a not so good way.
Definitely big adjustments. Dr. McGregor.
Yeah, so my story is a little bit different because I did not get a scholarship directly from Jamaica. In fact, I came to the States, I was attending another college in Jamaica at the time, right? And to be honest, like I wanted to play basketball. That's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I was playing basketball at this college, and it's so funny now because it makes so much sense. I was that student who didn't go to class, believe it or not. Well, here I am. I'm a doctor now, so listen, I promise you. But so let me tell y'all this. It's so funny because it just came to me. So when I graduated high school, I went to Excelsior Community College. And the reason why I went was the coach there at the time, he was like the coach for the national junior team. And I wanted to play for him. So I was like, well, if I go and I play for him and I play good, he will pick me for the team, right? And I'll get to see, I'll be able to handle practice more. And I went, practice every day. I showed up every day. I did everything. Class, I would miss class. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go to school until it was time for practice at 6 o'clock. I was living my best life. And I remember like it was midterms week and I went in and I was in an accounting class and this man put the paper before me and I'm like, what is this? Yeah, what was happening? And I wrote my name and I left. And I walked out and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I think I want to migrate now.
No way.
However, I do realize that most students won't have that same privilege, right? And so I migrated and I came and I started to work. I wanted nothing to do with college, nothing. And I started working, and while working, I had a supervisor who was like, you have to go back to school. And I'm like, why? What's the point? And she's like, you have to go back, you have to get an education. I'm like, okay. So I applied and I went to Bronx Community College, right? And so for me, like coming to the US, like I went to work first. So I had people that would teach me different things and I could learn and, kind of adapt a little bit better. And my family was also here in the States in New York. And then when I went to Bronx Community College, I started walking around campus and I saw like all these athletes and like a piece of me was like, Crystal, you got to go back. And I'm like, all right, let me check. But I wanted to play basketball. But when I went, they didn't have a basketball team. And I'm like, what? So the next best option was track and field. And I said, you know what? Let me just do track because I know how to do it. It can't be that bad. Let me get back into it. And I remember meeting my coach, Coach Howard, and he was like, I think at that school as well, it was this culture where if you're not, if they saw how your body was structured, if you were big, they assumed that you could throw. And so he was a little bit frustrated as well. So I remember going and he was like, I just need to see you throw. And I'm like, okay, like, I was like, he don't believe I could throw? Like, I couldn't make sense of it. And I remember going and I threw the discus and I threw the shot. And he was like, oh, you good? And I'm like, yeah. What you mean? And then we started talking and he was like, now he started asking me these questions like, well, why didn't you get a scholarship and why? And I started telling him everything I didn't know. I didn't know what a scholarship was. I didn't have anyone there to advocate for me. I didn't have anyone to show me, schools in, because granted, I wasn't the best top athlete in Jamaica, but I was throwing good numbers that I could be able to get a scholarship with. And so he was like, well, if you just do what you're supposed to do, I guarantee you that you're going to get a scholarship. And I said, okay, let's do it. And that's when everything turned around. Grades turned around. Doing what I was supposed to do turned around. But I think for me, because I went to a community college in New York, I started having these conversations with, it was a lot of island people there as well, but there were, white students there as well and Hispanics and all these different things. So I got a feeling of what that felt like first before I went to Hampton. Not only that, I had a similar experience like Claudia. I remember writing my first English paper and I put the date, I put the 17, like I'll put the day first, and the lady took 5 months off. And I went to her and I was like, I don't understand. And she's like, oh, you have the date incorrectly. And I'm like, no, I don't. And then I realized that, I was like, oh, this is a thing. And then I noticed in my writing, they'll take points off because I spelled favorite or color.
All the words with you.
Yeah, all these different words. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? And then I understood that, there is the British way and the American way. I was like, okay, well, I got to convert real quick or else it's going to be problems. And so when I went to Virginia, what changed was the culture from New York. New York people are rude. So when I went to Virginia, I wasn't sure if I should say good morning. Because in New York, you say good morning, they're ready to cuss you out. So I remember like these people would be so bubbly and I'm like, ooh, y'all so friendly.
Oh man.
Y'all so friendly or y'all so cool, right? And so, like when I got to Virginia, my problem now was thinking more along the lines of, I'm coming from a community college, would I be good enough to handle a 4-year college curriculum? And so that was the piece that I wasn't sure about. Right? It was more so trusting and saying, well, I went, because, you know, the stigma around community college, oh, these are not good schools. And that's a lie. Because then once I sat in these classes, I was like, oh, I learned that at BCC. We did that. I could do that. And I started handling stuff. And the beautiful thing about it was Claudia was at Hampton, Tosh was at Hampton. We had other Jamaicans on the team. So we had this bond and we had we just held each other down. So I laughed when Kat talked about how teammates missing practice, like Claudia, I would have to call her like, yo, the van about to leave. It's 6 o'clock, let's go.
Exactly. Literally.
You know what I'm saying? And she's talking about like I remember seeing Claudia like up 5 a.m. working on these chemical engineering stuff. And I'm like, girl, like, I'm so sorry for you and you got to figure it out. But it goes to show you, it's like when you don't have the support, when you don't have the knowledge, when you don't have somebody there to kind of structure you and help you to think about things differently, it puts you back. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. That's why mentoring is so important, because something that can take you, that took me, like all of this took us a couple years to figure it out. But for you, because we're aware of it, we could, one conversation, be like, hey, be mindful of this. When you write, take the you out of the sentence. Put your date this way. It could be a quick fix. Right? And so, but those are some of the things that we dealt with, like for me, it was a little bit easier because I had family in New York, right? So when I came to Virginia with a jacket, when Claudia didn't come with one, right? I came to Virginia with a cell phone. Half of these students probably didn't come with one. I came there having a social security number. They don't have one. They don't even know what that is. Right? Exactly. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So it's like all these different things, they have no information about it at all, and they don't know what to do. And so that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. For me, this is, exactly 3 different experiences or, thereabouts. And that's kind of what this platform is, the EuroStepping, where everyone talks about their experience, because I think everyone's got their own journey, everyone's got their own path, and you can always learn from someone's experience. You can always learn from, the way someone's walked their mile of how to walk your mile. So for me, it's definitely a big thing in terms of helping the next generation understand how to achieve their dreams, because you don't want it to be year 2, year 3 when they're just figuring it out, and now they've only got 1 year left.
Right.
It's like, oh man, I could have done this, I could have done that, and now it's a big trouble. So, definitely.
And, if I could just say something real quick, it's funny because I remember we weren't roommates, but we acted like we were roommates. And I remember Claudia's, her not wanting to do that major. Like when I asked her, like, well, why are you doing this? She's like, because this is what my mom or my brother said. And so I took that, I remember that. And so when I became a coach at Hampton and I started recruiting student athletes, and I would have these conversations with them, and I was like, oh, so what do you want to major in? And they're like, well, my mom says and my dad says. And I have to have these, I said, what? Not what your mom or your dad says. What do you want to major in? Because your mom or your dad is not going to do the work. Exactly. You're going to do the work, right? And I remember one kid, when he came, when I recruited him, and he started off, and I remember the same things I saw in Claudia, how she was frustrated, she wasn't happy. I started seeing those things in him. And I was like, what's going on? And that's when he was like, I don't want to do engineering. And I'm like, well, who said you got to do it? Like, it's like everybody come from Jamaica with this mindset, like you have to do engineering. You don't. And he was like, my mom. And I was like, no, have that conversation with your parent or parents and tell them the things that you're interested in. If they love you, trust me, they'll get on board. And even if they don't get on board, you still do what you want to do. At the end of the day, they'll get on board, I promise you.
Yeah, and a big part of it too is the lack of knowledge, Joe. That we think that's what we have to do because that's all we know. And there's no one there to tell us, like, these are the different options that you have when it comes to majoring. It's either
Mm.
lawyer, doctor, engineer,
Right.
right? You know, all the different things you wanted to be when you were growing up back home. So I think that's one of the great things about having this foundation, is like us having those experiences, seeing those experiences in others that we have encountered, and then bringing that to them, to where we even have like different interest tests or assessments that we would have students complete to see what they match with as far as their personality and career interest, and go from there. But they don't have those options or the knowledge of those options, because they're there if someone isn't there to kind of expose them to it. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, not even as a freshman, like when you go to school, they don't necessarily present you with all these subjects and say, hey, you don't have to declare a major your first year. You definitely don't. But they don't present it to you where, oh, you could choose engineering or business or science. Like I knew nothing about engineering when I went to A&T. Had I known, maybe I would have, went to that side. But by the time I learned about engineering, I was like, yeah, it's all right. I'm gonna stick to my accounting. But if it's presented to them their freshman year, then they'll have more options, get a better idea as to what's available out there for them.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I like it. So we're gonna have a trivial section. We always have a trivial, just kind of like a nice and easy section. So I always ask our internationals where they are. A couple of quick questions. So, what was the weather like in your state? I know you guys have moved around a little bit, so tell us what state and then what's the weather like. So for anyone that's going to that state, understands whether they need, shorts or they need a duffel, a duffel coat.
For me, so I went to school in Greensboro, North Carolina. In the summertime, when it gets hot. So bring your tank tops, bring your shorts, bring your flip-flops, you name it. You're gonna feel like you're in the Caribbean. Let's just say that.
Okay.
But the wintertime can get chilly. I would say you will experience snow, not a crazy New York snow where it's 6 inches, 8 inches. No. You'll probably get about 1 to 3 inches of snow. So yeah, you still want to be prepared for the winter. You want your jackets, your gloves. You will be practicing outside in the snow. Yes, in the snow. So dress appropriately. So you definitely want to bring your jacket, double up on your leggings and your sweatpants, double up on your socks sometimes, double up on your gloves sometimes. It gets cold. And then I came to Maryland for my MBA. So if you're gonna be in Maryland, pretty much the same. It's all seasons. So, you have spring. If you want to have your nice boots for fall, that's up to you. But yeah, you will have to also bring your sweater and jackets and big boots for the winter time. And summer, you could dress up as such for summer as well.
Okay, Dr. McGregor?
Yeah, so New York, definitely, you're gonna experience winter. It's you need your gloves, you need your boots, you need your jacket. It's cold and it snows.
Cold.
It's cold.
Cold is understatement.
When the summertime fine, it's good. It's hot. When it's hot. And you have to make it work. Virginia, like if we get 1 inch of snow, they shut the place down.
Really?
We get a lot of snow, but it gets cold. It's not that cold, but Hampton was cold because we're on the water. So that, that wind chill coming in. Michigan is in a thing by itself. You need everything. You need a mask, you need gloves, you need the heat and stuff to put in your things. You need a coat all the way down to your ankle. I'm so serious. But it gets cold. But Michigan, summertime, amazing weather. The fall, the spring, amazing weather. But winter, it gets serious out here. And also during the winter months in Michigan, we don't really see the sun for several months. So it gets a little bit difficult on you mentally. And so you have to, make sure you're taking your vitamins and all that good stuff. So.
Okay, Dr. Marshall.
I follow the heat, okay?
There you go.
But no, yeah. So to echo what Chrissy said about Virginia, it gets cold. It was cold for me. I wasn't coming from New York, so I was freezing. That is considered cold for me. So I needed a jacket. So if you're anything like me, you're gonna need a jacket from Virginia. Okay.
Yeah, you still need a jacket in Virginia. Yes.
Yes. And like we said, in the summertime, it's hot. In Alabama, it's just hot. It's a different type of hot. It's just, I think they're closer to hell or something. No, but it's really hot in Alabama. In the winter time, and I'm saying winter because it's not really winter time. The coldest it will get is around like 50 degrees, and on a freezing day, it's like 48. And it's the same for where I live here in Georgia right now. It was cold. It was considered a cold day yesterday, and it was 48 degrees. So,
man.
Must be nice.
It must. I know, right? It's all right for some.
This morning, and my phone said, "Good morning. It's -4."
Yeah,
-4, man.
No.
Okay, cool. Fun question. Food coming from Jamaica. You know, Jamaica's infamously known as good food. What is the food been like where you guys, I mean, when you came over, what was the food like? How did you feel about it?
College food is trash.
Trash. All the way trash.
Cafeteria is trash.
Oh my goodness. The cafeteria food is the cafeteria food. It's just like when you go to the hospital food is the hospital food. Like, there's no in between.
But at HBCU, Wednesdays are popping because that's when we have
that's fried chicken.
Yeah. We had special days too at A&T. We had fried chicken day or pizza day. So there are certain days you would look forward to more than any other day because, you know, it's just going to be some sloppy joes or something that you're not interested in. But because there was a lot of Jamaicans when I went, we made our own food. Most of the times we wouldn't necessarily eat at a cafeteria, even though we had the bucks for cafeteria food. We would go back home to our apartments or wherever and make our own food, and we call it a boat back home, where everyone would just eat from the same pot. Basically, one person make all the food, everybody eat. But the food was just, you know, just normal American food, I guess. Down south, you can get lucky with some fried fish, some good mac and cheese. You know, the down south food. The southern food is good if you're outside of school.
Okay.
If you're outside of school, you can get some nice food. But on campus, regular, nothing fancy.
We didn't have those apartment luxuries. We were eating Pop-Tarts and toaster strudels and
noodles and put it in the microwave, and that's about it. Chanello's pizza.
Yep. And Chrissy and Rocky went home for Thanksgiving and brought back their jerk chicken for us, and we tried to make that last for like 3 weeks. So.
We didn't have it, or we go by friends and cook.
Yep.
That's and you know, your teammates want your food, so we always get together and cook and have a good time. But Chick-fil-A was my spot, still is my spot. I think that's the best thing on earth. You know, so good.
Really?
Yeah, I love Chick-fil-A, man. So you have to try Chick-fil-A. If you're watching this, you come to the States, you have to try Chick-fil-A.
Okay. What other recommendations have we got for food spots?
Food spots?
Not KFC.
Any fast food?
No,
we're not impressed with KFC. Probably
not at all. Throw away the whole thing.
Zaxby's makes great salads.
Zaxby's has good food. Definitely from Virginia down south, you'll find Zaxby's. It's a down south restaurant. They have a lot of good food. Chick-fil-A, as Chrissy said. Stay away from McDonald's if you can.
Go to Cookout.
Go to Cookout. Cookout is good too.
What's Cookout?
Cookout, they sell fried food, sandwiches, hush puppies. Not good food for you, just fried food, basically.
You get a whole meal for $5, a burger, some hush puppies, a drink, some nuggets.
$5. Oh wow, yeah.
I go to Outback. They have amazing.
Outback too. Mm-hmm.
Is that Texas Outback, or is it just called Outback?
Outback.
Just
Outback.
regular Outback.
Yeah.
You must be thinking Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, okay,
They're
Yeah,
peanuts,
more like a
right?
city.
yeah.
But I mean, you could find, just like anywhere in the world, you will find the regular fast food spots or the restaurant, whether it's at Applebee's or
Right.
PGI Fridays or, you know.
I'm surprised Kat didn't say Waffle House.
I was
Right?
just about to say that. See, I'm big on breakfast food. So if you are a big person on breakfast food, I will advise you to go to Waffle House. Now, I will put this one blurb in there, but don't tell anyone I said this. The dirtier the Waffle House, the better.
The food. Yes.
And it's real. It's real.
The dirtier the Waffle House, the better the food.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that.
It's so true.
It's true.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But Waffle House is good on breakfast food. If you love you some breakfast food any time of the day, 24 hours, Waffle House is the place to go.
You know, when you come over to the States for sports and all the rest of it, you are 17, 18, 19, as you said, 3,000 plus miles away from friends and family. And you've got all these distractions. So you've got, you know, drugs, alcohol, and I guess the sex life. How did you navigate it to not distract you? And how did you navigate it so you didn't get yourself in trouble?
Funny you said distractions. So the school I went to is known as a party school. That's one of the biggest things we're known for is partying, the way we party. So honestly, if your head is not right on your body, like, you know, you can be easily persuaded. You can be easily, there's peer pressure. And not just with your teammates. It could be with your roommates, which might not be your teammates, or it could be someone else from another team, or anyone, your classmates, right? So you really have to be this person that's focused. That's the number one thing, is focus. I know for me, I grew up with a single parent, so getting the opportunity to go to A&T was huge for me. So I made it my priority to make sure I was on top of everything. Regardless, if I was getting a C, I would cry. Literally, I would cry if I did not make the grade that I wanted. Also, like I said, one of the biggest things that helped us while we were in school, I'm not sure if this is how it is for any other country, but for Jamaicans, we pride in education. In a lot of aspect. And I think that's kind of what kind of set the pace for me with the other Jamaicans around me. It's almost like you feel like it's a competition to stay smart because it's like you want to be known as a smart one, or yeah, she can actually do her work. Like, yeah, she good. Like, you know, so with that and having the coach I had, you know, helped me to stay focused as well. Like I said, with my mom as well. Helped me to stay focused and to maintain the grades I needed. So for me, partying and doing track at the same time wasn't hard because I always kind of knew how to balance them from high school. So the only thing that made it different for me is, okay, now I don't have my mom over my head saying, oh, you better do your work, or, you know what I'm saying? So I would recommend to anyone that's going to a school that's known as a party school is to pretty much try to stay focused. Focus if you need extra time to go into, what do they call it? What is that, ladies, if you can refresh my memory? You go to this session after class, after your classes with
Study
a
hall.
tutor, study hall. So you will be sent to study hall if you are not doing your work, basically. If you need to spend more time there and get your work done, your assignments done before you go back home, you have the opportunity to do that. So if you are the person that needs to go to study hall before you go home because you know you won't get your work done, do that. I stress it because it's very important to get it done. I never had any issue with being forced to do drugs. Yes, you would be you see drinking every day at every party you go to, even though it's not supposed to be there, or an apartment or someone's house, you're gonna see it, but you have to know when you're supposed to do something and when you're not supposed to do something. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do anything that's outside. If it's not a part of the rule, then clearly don't do it. If you can't control it, if you can't abstain from it, then do what you think is best for you in that situation. Like we said, it's a business. So if you're not able to perform, and if you're not able to provide those grades that you need to compete, then that's it for you. A prime example is a teammate of mine. Unfortunately, she got pregnant her junior year in college, and as a result, she lost her scholarship. She wasn't able to compete, and so sometimes, obviously, you've made a mistake, but you need to as well learn from that mistake. And with you seeing other people getting into situations as such, then you try to, steer from what's causing them to get in that trouble. Don't follow them. Don't follow whatever bad company or whatever you think they're in. Get away from it, basically. Just stay focused and stay the case, basically. Just go the route that you're supposed to go to, basically. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. I think for me, it really came down to like having too much to lose. Like if I lose my scholarship, I literally have to go back to a whole nother country, right? So I'm not saying that I didn't party and I didn't drink and I didn't do all the things that college student does, because it's a part of the college experience. Yeah. You're going to learn some more about yourself, you're going to explore, you're going to do all these different things. But being an athlete, there's a certain expectation of what you are supposed to, and I'm using my air quotes because supposed to is a very strong word, how you're supposed to navigate that experience. So one is really thinking about how much I had to lose, and then having people like Teresa and Crystal like, you really want to go to party tonight, or you want to come sit down and study a book, right? Because they used to always remind me, like, you out there with these Americans, like if they lose their scholarship, they could always go back to another school somewhere else. You going back to Jamaica. So even having those accountability partners, like they really helped me to balance it. Because sometimes like we would literally go into a party like a night before the track. And some people, they can function and compete, and for others it really shows, right? So I think it comes down to balancing, prioritizing, knowing your limit, because no one is telling you just not to have any type of experience when you go to college, because that is a part of being in college. But finding that balance, having those accountability partners, and really remembering your why of why it is that you are there. And that you'll be on a boat going back to a whole nother country.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely echo everything that was said. For me, and Claudia could tell you, like partying and those stuff wasn't something of interest for me. So if Claudia's like, Chrissy, I'm going to a party tonight. Okay, have fun. I'll see you tomorrow. So it's like, because I knew, so this is the thing. I can't afford to lose my scholarship. Hampton University was super small. And majority of the time that we went to a party, we got into trouble. Thanks. So because I don't want my name to be called with that, I just didn't go, right? Because the head coach, he would always find out. He's not everything, but he's gonna find out. And it's sad because we would be punished with everybody else. And I would be so mad because I was in my bed sleeping. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Right? So for me, I really had this tunnel vision. Like my job, because it's a business, my job was to go to practice, go to class, do my work, repeat. That's what I did. Now, everybody classified fun to be different. Fun for me could be sitting in my room, hanging with my friends, playing video games, laughing and cutting it up. Fun for somebody else could be going to the club and wilding out. My fun was hanging out with my friends,
making videos,
being on social media, playing video games, walking around campus, singing songs. That was our fun. Attending different events on campus, but also, and it comes down to this piece that Kat brought up earlier, you are a brand. As a student athlete, you're no longer just representing yourself, you're also representing the institution, right? So because if an article comes out about you, it's not gonna say, Kristen Mcgregor, it's gonna say Kristen Mcgregor, a member of the track and field program at Hampton University.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to remember that. You have to remember that you're representing something that's bigger than you. And I don't want you, I don't want to lose my scholarship. I don't, because I can't afford it. And so if it means that for 4 years or 2 years, I'm gonna sacrifice just not showing up to a party, or if I go to a party knowing when to leave, that's what I'm gonna do. and Claudia could tell you, I would go to parties with them and I legit stand in the back. Okay, all right, when you finish, are you ready? I'll show my face, can I go now? Right? But then I also understand this piece of like peer pressure, right? So again, it comes down to like, you have to know yourself. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And then you also have to think about like, you have a family that if you go back to Jamaica, it doesn't look good. The community, they're gonna talk. And I don't know about you, but I didn't want that. And so for me, just being focused was super easy because I knew I had a responsibility, and our head coach, he wasn't afraid to tell us, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to lose your scholarship. So it came down to handling my business. I have to be eligible. I have to compete. I have to show up. It's a job. Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
I'm laughing because I remember one time in a meeting, Coach B was like, "Listen, I hope that boy you running after gonna pay your tuition next semester." Right. Right.
Okay.
So and he was serious. Don't think he was joking.
Oh gosh.
Man, that's nuts. That's yeah, I guess being at a small school and what you said there, Dr. McGregor, it's you know, there's so many headlines that I read since I've been here. It's like UNM athlete this, UNM. So sometimes you don't even get your name. It's literally just the program, you know, the program and the sport. And then you kind of got to read, you know, you got to dig a bit more to find out who and where or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot at stake when you're out there doing stuff, because it's not just you, it's now, you know, the coaches, they've recruited this person and all they want to do is party, or they've recruited this person and they're a bad breed, So it's definitely more than just your own name and just some fun. So definitely having to put that into perspective.
Wow.
Yeah,
and I just want to add a little piece. When you said that, it really touched something, because when you said it's not just you, now you even think about people coming from the country that you're coming from, and how coaches might view them based on the experiences that they've had with you.
Yeah, that's true. It's true, and you know, as a coach, and I talk to college coaches myself, there is a sort of association, whether it's a positive or a negative one. You always say, oh yeah, you know, get players from Spain because they're, you know, this way inclined, get players from there because they're that way inclined. Or, you know, if you have, God forbid, you have 3 players with similar tendencies and they've all been negative, then that's it, you might as well strike off the whole country. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, them Jamaican boys, man. I had them here and they were playing music and they were no, like, I'm done. Do you know what I mean? So it's real important. I really, really, really enjoyed being here with all of you. It's a shame we are missing the 4th member. Doctor, is it Doctor, or is Dakota a doctor?
Dakota Wall. No, she's not.
Oh, okay. So they're missing Dakota. So but yeah, there are 4 members of the Achieve a Dream Foundation. Can you? What's the best way to get in contact with you all, if you're a aspiring athlete?
So they can go to our website at theachieveadreamfoundation.org. Again, it's theachieveadreamfoundation.org. Once they go there, they'll see where they can register for whatever program we have available out there. They can also go to our Instagram page at the Achieve a Dream _ the Achieve a Dream Foundation _ and they can also go to our Facebook page, the Achieve a Dream Foundation. pretty much once they go to our website, they'll see all that information there as well. They can reach out to us via email. Once they go to our profile, they'll see all that information as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I definitely hope they get in touch with you guys about any queries. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to put your social handles on the show as well, just in case they wanted to reach out and they might have connected with one of you on your journey, and they might want to inquire. So as I said, Dr. Mcgregor going to a community college, then kind of still doing track and field, and then going through the process and getting a PhD. There might be someone in a similar line, and I know there's a lot of as you said, a lot of bad press about community college, but there might be somebody wanting to, or someone that's on that track and wanting to reach out and hear your story a bit more. So if it's okay, hopefully I can put everyone's social media handles on the show, and they can reach out if they feel like they wanted to connect on a more personal level.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
actually, if they visit our website, like our social media handles are on our page.
Yeah.
Well, so they could
Awesome.
go that route, but we could also give you that information so you could drop it in your description.
No worries. Perfect. Well, thank you for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. As I said, I've been looking forward to it like the whole week, and really glad to hear from you all today.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Hey, this is Kristen with the Achieve a Dream Foundation. Thank you for watching the EuroStepping show today. We hope you enjoyed everything that was said.
Hey, my name is Claudia, and I'm with the Achieve a Dream Foundation. Thank you for watching EuroStepping.
Appreciate you watching the EuroStepping.
I want to thank everybody for watching EuroStepping.
Watching the EuroStepping.
The EuroStepping.
The EuroStepping.
You've been watching the EuroStepping.
The EuroStepping.
EuroStepping.
You've been watching the EuroStepping, a great podcast show hosted by Coach D.